Hey everyone, how are you today? I'm not as ready as I should be. Just give me a moment. Welcome to my channel. I logged on a few minutes sooner just so I can make sure everything is connected properly. But yeah, technology is doing its thing. Welcome back to Wind Down Wednesdays. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm good, almost good. How's everyone doing tonight? I hope you are doing well. Can you believe it's already October the 1st? Okay. I see my YouTube stream is spinning. Not sure why. Hola, CD. Welcome. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I'm just trying to get everything together. Give me a moment. That's a great question. So for some reason, my live said it was scheduled to start in an hour, but I'm actually starting at 6 my time, which is in 1 minute. Okay, so live starts in 1 minute. Well, I'm already live, but it will be 6 o'clock in 1 minute. Okay, so let me just tell. Hey, I already fixed it, so we're all set. Thank you. I'm already live. All right, that was my wonderful assistant. And yeah, I'm a little bit not together today, but we're gonna get it together. All right, how's everyone doing? Happy Wednesday. We are 1 hour behind Texas in central US time. We are considered mountain time. We don't honor daylight savings, so that's why we are what we are. CD was thinking about moving to Mexico, so it's going to be interesting to hear why folks are leaving. Yeah. There are people who are leaving, and we're going to talk about that. I feel like a lot of the reasons are, happy Wednesday, thank you, are somewhat personal, but they are factual reasons. I would say, I've had a few clients that moved here, and there are people who left for different reasons, whether they wanted to or not, or it wasn't for them. So we'll just talk about, some of the top reasons and things like that. This week has been wonderful. Getting ready for a total test run at CasaELM, so I'm super excited about that. We're gonna have a couple people, pretty much a full house over there in a few days, and we're all going to have feedback and all these amazing things to share about CasaELM. Yay. So anyway, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. My name is Michelle. I live in San Miguel de Allende, which is located in central Mexico. I have lived here for over 7 years. I absolutely love living in Mexico, even with the reasons and all the things that we've talked about on my channel, whether they were up or down or sideways. I honestly would not return to where I used to live to the north. And I really honestly don't feel that there's anything that I just honestly would like to move back to and to experience. And at this time and stage, I'm quite saddened by all the craziness that I see. Clearly, a lot of it's on social media, and I don't know that that's all factual, but what I do see definitely is nothing that I've ever been around or used to. And so I just kind of, don't really talk a lot about politics, and I don't harp on about scenarios and situations. However, what I do talk about is the real life scenarios and situations that I experienced living in Mexico. And to be honest with you, I enjoy my life here a lot. I enjoy it for myself, for my child, for a lot of different reasons. So I really think that You know, the the purpose I have is to share, to shine a light on various parts of Mexico, on the experiences that I've had in Mexico, and why I feel that I'm received in Mexico, and the things that are sometimes really uppers, which I have more pros than cons, and then also the cons. So that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. I'm not going to be 2 hours long. Last week was a lot of fun with the whole Dating in Mexico edition. I wanted to bring a friend of mine on, but sometimes people don't really feel comfortable, and I totally respect that, putting their life and business out on the streets of YouTube. So I wanted to have a couple come on that found love in Mexico. She's not Mexican and he is Mexican, and they got married last year. And I knew her before she got married and all the things. So basically, I wanted to come on and have them come on and kind of talk about their dating experience so we could see it from another perspective and position. Anyway, as I said, I'm Michelle. I'm the founder of CasaELM Boutique Guest House, which is located in San Miguel de Allende. I'm also the founder of Hacienda Elm, which is a 60-plus community for those who want to age in a space but be with others as you age and get older. You may not want to live on your own anymore. We are providing an all-inclusive service that comes along with that, and it's also located in San Miguel, and it is two completely separate locations. I have to emphasize that because some reason people put them together. No, we're not moving. CasaELM is still here, but we now have a second location that serves a complete different purpose, and I'm just grateful for it, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to, exist in this country and to do something that I really enjoy doing. And that's something I would like to talk about in the future is ideas for people to do something. And I'm going to talk about it in the future from a brick and mortar standpoint. Okay, there's a lot of online things, I get it. Those are all wonderful, but there are a lot of people who are not digital and digital nomads and doing online businesses and all that stuff. There are a lot of us that may have just a skill or a talent that we want to start something. So I would like to talk a little bit more about that in the future. I know Exodus Summit is focusing on a lot of money abroad and how to get your money, move your money abroad type things. But I also kind of want to put a light on how to start your own business in another country, okay? This is straight up, when I tell you boots on the ground, it's boots on the ground, okay? People always say, oh, looks like it's just like, you're just kind of sailing through. No, that shit's hard, okay? It's hard, it's complicated, the language, understanding, and then some of the things I'll talk about today as well is just not ever really having like a good, honest connection with certain types of people. And I'm going to say certain types of people, meaning attorneys, people that are supposed to be on your side, that are supposed to help you out. A lot of times things feel like a money grab, and that's one of the things that is on my reasons people leave. And I think it's important to talk about that because it can be frustrating when and if it does happen and it comes up. So before we get into all of that, I want to say welcome to everyone that's in the chat. Again, welcome CD. Hi, Khadijah. How are you? Welcome, Cheryl. Welcome, Miss LGC. Buenas noches. Welcome, son. Buenas noches. Like and share this video, please. Yes, please. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. Thank you. Thank you. I'm always forgetting to say that till I get all the way to the end. Hi, Pam. Buenas noches and welcome. Hi, Living Abroad 60. I just see a bunch of retract. And hola, okay, hola, amigas. And yes, good idea. Thank you, Khadijah. And Son, interested in that definitely how to navigate and not to be taken advantage of. I don't know that there's a definitive, this is how you do it, but just being aware that it can happen and asking questions, but it happens, okay? So let's get into first our housekeeping. I do the housekeeping at the beginning, and I hope you all are patient with that process because I don't know that everyone's going to watch to the end, and I want to just make sure that things that I want to say at the beginning that are important to me are said. Okay, so first is our tea sponsor, Michelle Watson, who's the owner, founder of Ingenuity and Spice Company. For all of those who live in the United States, please go to her website and definitely get a look-see at her amazing organic teas that are on the shelves in the kitchen at CasaELM and also Hacienda. And then next year, my co-host Tracy Collins and I are doing our Black Blossom retreat again in the state of Oaxaca here in Mexico. That will be happening on the 16th through the 22nd of March 2026. So if you're interested, please feel free to check out that URL. We still have one space left for our November relocation tour. And if you are interested in that, here is the link for it, and or you can join one of our relocation tours next year, okay? We already have a few people who signed up for February already. That's the first one in 2026. And if you are interested in learning more about CasaELM, please go to my website, CasaELM.com, to learn more about our community. And then here is the Google Doc that has info for rates and inclusions for those who want to know. We also have Dia de los Muertos, which I am co-hosting with Anne-Marie, who was on last week and had us all laughing at why dating in Mexico can be special, to say the least. She was funny. If you missed that, please make sure you go and catch it. But this is our day pass for Dia de los Muertos. You can find that. And then we also have all of our events listed for CasaELM at this link. I know I'm kind of dumping on all of you really quickly. We only have 5 spaces, I think, 4 or 5 spaces left for our upcoming Thanksgiving brunch, which will be happening here. I'm cooking. It's a whole Jamaican fusion. You can see the menu at this link. If you are in San Miguel or plan on being in San Miguel, please roll through. If it's something that you want to do, we will be with live music and entertainment by Danielle. She's going to sing. She's amazing. And we also have a guest singer as well, another amazing woman who will be here. And I will be in the kitchen for probably a long time. We also have Thanksgiving week, which includes the brunch, and you can see the details if you want to stay at Casa. You can definitely do that. And last but not least, in 2 weeks, we have our annual October meetup. There's still some spaces left for that. And that's it. All right, that was a lot. But anyway, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I am going to go through tonight, and I'm not going to be on here as long because I need to get ready for some guests that are arriving, and I also need to get ready for our thing that's happening at Hacienda on Friday. I have a long list of things to do, so I'm going to go through my reasons. I was actually going to pre-record tonight, and then I thought about postponing it altogether, but I will say this in advance that I will not be on here at all in December and possibly January. So I want to just keep the Wednesday night flow going for the rest of the Wednesdays that are left through the end of November. And then after that, so that's why I'm here, committed to you all and my channel. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Okay, let's get started. What are the reasons that people are leaving? Honestly, I feel, and if you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. The top reason, in my opinion, is people run out of money. There are a lot of misconceptions about the money in Mexico and how far it goes. Now, yes, things are way more economical, and I've talked about this for many different ways and many different times. But tonight I want to talk about really some of the reasons why people, it doesn't work for them abroad, right? And even if you planned really well, things happen, okay? And I'm talking from seeing other people's experiences now. I won't talk about their experiences, but I will talk about the fact that some of my friends and some of my clients really, really struggled with coming here, thinking they had a lot, or something happened where they didn't have as much as they thought. Maybe thought that they were going to be able to find work online. That proved to be extremely difficult. I think it is smart if you already have something and you're already building yourself up before you leave. But, a part of the reason why Mexico was such an attraction in the past for people moving here from other countries was because they were retired and they were already receiving a check every single month. They were already getting a pension, a social security. They already had their retirement fund plus whatever. Or maybe they were just independently wealthy and they saved up and made, really smart choices. There are a lot of individuals who are not in that position and moved here with even an online thing that they were doing and how they even earned what they had. And in the end, one revenue stream probably was not sufficient. So it's always good to diversify. And so I believe that that's one of the top reasons. People automatically assume Mexico is cheap, as they say. And there are parts of Mexico that are less expensive. I like to use those two words together than living in San Miguel, maybe along the beach, the popular beaches like Tulum and Cancun and all those places. I find that even Mexico City is a little less expensive than here. But I also find that when I travel outside of tourist areas, and that's pretty much most of the country except some of those places I just listed, things are less expensive, but things are still going up. And there's also the exchange of the dollar may be really strong for, 1, 2 years or whatever. So you always have to account for it not being strong, right? So let's say, and this happened to me, and I've talked about this. If you didn't see it already, this happened to me a couple summers ago. I moved into an apartment. Well, it's a townhouse actually, and when I moved in, I was like, okay, here's my rent range. And at the time, I moved a little bit outside of the city. One, because I like that neighborhood and I like that area. I love the mountains. It was very quiet. It was inside of a development, and it was a brand new place that no one had lived in before. And it was 3 stories, and it was 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and all this stuff. And it was really pretty. I always liked driving by there. Now, did I need all of that space? No, I did not. But it was still within my budget, but it was at the top part of my budget because I also didn't want to spend a lot because I was like, okay, I just started CasaELM. I have a lot of stuff going on over here, but I was living over there and decided, okay, I'm gonna go for it. And I moved in, and then I think the following year, 1 year after I moved in, the exchange rate changed, and then suddenly I think it was around $650 a month rent, which isn't bad, was now, I want to say close to $800. And that was because when I moved in, it was $1 for like, 20 pesos for $1. And then it went all the way down to like, it was somewhere between 15 and 16. And so things just kind of, changed. And of course, I still had all the regular things to pay. Now, utilities, as I've always told you all, don't really cost that much unless you're living in a place where you're running an air conditioner or some kind of like electric heating system. Then yes, your utility bill can skyrocket. But for the most part, the utilities won't really break the bank. But the dollar exchange could really make an impact on your budget if you're on a fixed budget. So money is, for me, it's one of the things that cost a lot. Now, if you're willing to kind of not be in Centro, be a little bit outside of the city, possibly willing to roommate with someone, or double up on the space, say you made a friend online, you all met in person, and spent a little time together, and you're like, okay, I like this sister, I like this brother, or whatever, if it's a mixed gender in the house, that's fine too. Like I've roommated with people in the past, guys and girls. When I lived in Florida, I used to rent my space out when I lived in Florida, because I had, again, a 3-bedroom, and I was just like, okay, I'm not really using all of these spaces. And it was great. I actually had guy roommates, and no issues. They were really clean. They were hardly around. They were out of my hair and space, no drama, no nothing. So I actually did enjoy having them as roommates, and I made sure that they understood it was a straight up business. I was like, I'm not your mama, I'm not your friend, I'm not your family. I made a contract, all the things, they had to make a deposit, security deposit, they had to pay all the things in the contract, sign it, et cetera, et cetera. My point is you could do the same thing here. I feel like places are kind of set up to allow you to have a bit more space and room to move around. I know several people who are sharing together, but this is a way to conserve what you have when you move here. So what I wanted to say about it is that a lot of people think, oh, it's so cheap, but they don't factor all the things in. They don't factor in the exchange rate is big. They don't factor in if something happens along the way. They don't always factor in the cost to get into your space, right? They might just look at the cost of rent. They're not factoring in the security deposit. They're not factoring just getting started. They might not be factoring moving some of their things, flying down here, having money if you're 1 or 2 revenue income streams or whatever it is not working for you. They don't necessarily factor all that in. And I say they, meaning this is probably more applicable to single people, right? So it doesn't mean, you're not going to make it. It just all depends on your situation and on you. And also really, really, really depends on your mindset. I've learned that in these I've always had a strong mindset, but I really have learned that you have to be the first one to believe in what you're doing, right? So you have to believe in the move, but you also have to plan for the move, and you have to believe that it's going to work for you, and whatever it is you're doing, that's going to sustain you, and that you have to also believe that if this doesn't go this way as I planned it, that I can quickly do these 2 or 3 other things to make it. Okay, so that's the reason why I said, there aren't enough people talking about opening and starting an actual brick and mortar in the country you're moving to, okay, or doing something that pays you in the country, not that's, only online, because not everyone can do, I'm gonna say everyone can do stuff however you choose to, but I also think it's really important for people to understand, like, it's not that difficult for you to start a business in another country, at least not in Mexico. What you need to know is how to, okay? How do I do that? And making sure you're doing it as legal as possible. So in talking about all of that is basically there are ways that you can come here and you can earn. We had our sister Jackie, who opened a place. It was called the Collective. And, she rented like a regular home, really beautiful, and decided to rent each of the spaces out like a studio. So if there was an artist or someone needed a space to do hair, or someone needed a space to do whatever, that's also another way. That's another great way to be kind of the person who is responsible for the space, or going into it and sharing it with someone else, and then renting out those individual spaces. Now, I will say this, make sure if you're renting the space that it's okay with the owner, because you do and should have permits for those things, whether it's rental or not. Even if you own it, if you do a business, you still need to have a permit for certain things, okay? This is really important, because if you have a crabby neighbor like I did, then they could create some issues and challenges for you, right? And we already talked about that situation quite a while ago, so we won't get into that. But we do have people who bring their prejudices from the United States down to Mexico, and they think they can just conduct themselves however, and you could run into a scenario like this. But it's still one of those things that I personally feel it's not hard to integrate into society and community here in San Miguel, especially because there are a lot of foreigners. So if you are someone coming with maybe like a foreign type offer of some sort, or you have a niche skill set that's for, a specific demographic, or just, whatever it is, if you're an artist, you're really creative, then this is a great city for that. You can really integrate very easily into the community. There's a beautiful couple that stayed with me a couple months ago, and I saw them on Saturday at the market here in Los Frailes, and he does cigars, and he's selling his cigars, and I think that's amazing. I may have them on as well in the future to just kind of talk about it. You can get a table up there, it doesn't cost a lot. It literally, I think, costs less than $5 for you to get a table, get permission, set up. It's one day a week, but there are plenty of markets around town. So these are some of the things that can support you, and or support the income you're coming with, to make sure you don't burn through it, because there's always going to be more cost than you anticipate, and more things that will come up than you anticipate. And if you have like a health challenge or something like that, you have to kind of be ready for something that might be greater than what you just budgeted to a T, right? Even if you didn't budget to a T, or you budget a little, okay, I got 20% extra, you just want to make sure that you kind of have like a bit of leverage, so that you can support what it is that you're trying to do abroad. Because coming abroad is a big step. Planning is huge. It can be extremely draining, and it can break you down if you let it. But I think it's really important for the whole overall idea, for you to just kind of like, okay, if this, if that. Now, you can't necessarily combat everything, but I think it's really important to understand that money is really one of the number one reasons that people end up leaving and going back home. And sometimes they go back home and they're happy. They're happier. They're like, you know what? I tried it. I did it. That is not for me. And I've had people leave and it had nothing to do with money. They just tried, like they weren't happy. They were unlucky with renting. They had unlucky situations in the spaces that they put money into, and it didn't work out. And so that's why we talked about those things, so people understand that there are things that happen here. No matter how much you might be ready for something, that could be something that totally throws your plan off. So we're going to go to the comments really quick. Let's see. Hi, Mayberry. Good evening. Thank you. Hi, health coach for the culture. Buenas noches. Dwayne Bearfield, welcome. Good evening. Morelia is supposed to be nice and inexpensive. It is. Morelia is very nice, actually, like the city there. And I want to talk about going to places that maybe you're really not familiar with, and creating things, okay? Because I'm a creator. Hi, Michelle, budgeting. Welcome. Hi, Miss Ingenuity. Budgeting in a currency fluctuating country. Hold on. Sorry, this is not letting me see your whole thing. May mean you have to begin by living a couple $100s below, yep, your budget to try and insulate yourself from the fluctuations. Exactly, I agree 100%. Welcome, April. Yes, the exchange rate is a real plan for it. Honestly, you have to really be ready for that to happen, especially in this day and age. It's like crazy sometimes. Things are up, down. Yeah, I can tell you, and before I get to living abroad 60, I can tell you that, and welcome, by the way. I can tell you that in COVID, it was on our side, right? Because the $1 was now 25, close, it was like somewhere between 23 and 25 pesos for $1. So that was fantastic for us because rent now was less, right? $150 less in the place that I originally lived in. So it can work both ways, but I had not experienced it at that point. I had only had the up, right? And so when it went down, like down, I was like, oh crap, I didn't think about this because I had not experienced that up until that point. And this was a few years in of me living here. So now I know. And so it's just something to think about. That's important. Living abroad 60, I've been here for a year. Yes, and my rent was 326 and now it's 375. However, I purposely chose a rent that's far below my means. So if the price went up, I could still comfortably, I need to put my glasses on, y'all. Trying to be cute. Ow. Okay, I could still comfortably afford it. That's a great plan. You know, make sure you put cushion every month. If you, again, if you have a set income and you have a set thing and you know what your budget is, don't go above that, you know. And there are places people always say, oh, San Miguel's so expensive. No, it's actually, you know, a mix. You could go real high. I know people who pay, you know, 3, 4,000 US dollars a month to rent a place. And then I know others who are paying 300, you know, for their own space. It might be small, whatever, but you just got to be creative. You know, you can make it work. I know I can make anything work in terms of that. Because one, I like decorating anyway. So I can go into a space and be like, oh, we can do that. But there are a lot of options. You know, it might not be right in Central. It might not be right where the neighborhood that you want to drive through and, you know, salivate or whatever. But I do think that if you really, really want to be somewhere, you can make it happen with good planning. I'm not going to say a little bit, with good planning, a good solid plan, knowing what your budget is, knowing what your income is, and then if there's a way to supplement that, then you can do that. Okay, so that's why I want to talk about that a little bit. So, CD says, how do we schedule a consultation for more living abroad advice and information on starting a brick and mortar? You can schedule a consultation with me on CasaELM.com, CasaELM.com, and on the menu it says consultations, and my consultations are for both. I am going to talk about starting your own business, whether you're partnering with somebody, you know, ways to do things smart. It's just not difficult to get space here. It's not difficult to get equipment here. I will try to bring on as many people as possible to talk about their own scenarios and situations, and so that this gives insight for people. Like I was entertaining, not going to do it. I was entertaining out of frustration a few years ago, starting a salon. I'm not a hairdresser, right? But I don't think I need to be a hairdresser. I think I just need to find people who are and then put them in the space and train them on how to do our hair texture and everyone that lives in the cities hair texture, because there are a lot of people who want certain techniques and things that are kind of, more known in our community. For example, getting extensions, getting braids, getting weaves, whatever. I've had several people, non-Black people, ask me these questions, and I'm just, we take these things for granted in the US because there are so many stylists and so many places to buy extensions and hair. And I know this isn't for everyone, and some people like, just cut your hair off. No, I don't want to cut my hair off, okay? I want to do what I want to do. And so I just kind of found it interesting that somebody didn't latch on to this. And so I had a conversation with a young woman who was doing hair for us, probably, pity hair, pity hairstyles. And I say that because she took pity on us because she wasn't a stylist, but she said, oh, I always did my own hair. And then suddenly it was sort of like, oh, here's a way to make some money, right? And so I had a conversation with her at one point. We didn't do it, but I said, what about getting a space? What would that cost to rent a space and have maybe like 2 stations to start and getting this equipment? And I started looking into it just because I was curious. I have enough to do, but I was curious. And the equipment didn't cost a lot. Getting a plumber to install stuff and to do to put in a sink, as long as there's a water line and all that. I mean, it's just not a lot. It just doesn't cost a lot. Okay, you can okay. For example, I'm going to share this tidbit with you guys. I remodeled the kitchen at Hacienda Elm, and it cost me less than $1,500. Okay, that was for labor, remodel, taking all this old stuff out, putting in new stuff, installing a hood, doing a backsplash, putting up shelves, changing my light fixture, changing some tiles on the ground, taking out all the horrible tiles that I did not like in the space, just putting in another electric line, moving the gas line. So I'm saying this to you because it's not about I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm so grateful and so appreciative to be able to do these things on a very affordable for me amount. My point is to emphasize that you can get stuff done here a little bit easier and on a budget and less red tape than in the United States. Because back before I had my child, I wanted to do like a small takeout place in South Florida. And I was considering like a kind of like it was a Jamaican concept, but with a twist. It wasn't like your homemade Jamaican food. It was like a whole cool concept. And I looked at so many places, and it was like right off the rip, it was just $50,000 just to get the inspection, to put in the hood, and to do all the things, right? And then it was like adding the equipment costs and all the stuff. It just kept chinging all the way up. And at one point I considered doing a food truck. My point is that here it's definitely something that's more doable. So I've always had a very entrepreneurial mindset, and most of my ideas have been brick and mortar ideas, not so much online. I like to create spaces for people to come into and experience something. And so I had this conversation with my friend who was doing my hair for me at the time, and I started looking into equipment. It wasn't a lot. I knew plumbing wasn't going to cost a lot to install things and to really get a space, a small space even, and then I started to say, well, if there's a hair enthusiast somewhere in a school, because clearly there are cosmetology schools here as well. And I was like, all we need is someone, a few girls, women, I'm assuming, who enjoy doing hair, and then bring somebody from the US to train them, maybe a month, pay for them to come and stay for a month or 2 or whatever, and train them on how to do our hair and the certain things that we prefer. And then also, they already know how to do their own hair. And then their hair texture is very similar to, non-black people. And so I just kind of had this whole thing in my head that it's not that complicated. Of course, it's a lot of work. My conversation is not about doing that particular thing. It's about being able to create for yourself, right? So if there's something you enjoy, something you like, something you love, and it's not a digital thing, that you could also do something in person. You could do something here, and that could supplement income that you already have coming in, but maybe you need more. Okay, you could maybe partner with someone and say, you know what, I really enjoy, et cetera, et cetera. I have another friend here who recently started. She is a social butterfly. I love her to death. And she recently started a business. I don't know all the details, but it's something she was already doing. And now she's doing more of it. And she partnered with someone who has the back end, and she's the social butterfly, and they're doing their thing. There's so many opportunities. So I just want to encourage you all that yes, money is the number one reason why people are leaving, because they run out of it and they don't have a steady pay or income coming in, or something comes up. I had another friend who was here literally struggling for quite a few years, and finally decided, I'm going to go back, I'm going to work, I'm going to do this and that, and then I'll come back. So I just want people to understand that struggles happen, right? And even when things are less expensive, it still can add up. And San Miguel is definitely one of the more expensive places to live in Mexico. So on that note, I'm going to get to your comments and things in a moment. On that note, I want to say this as well about other places in Mexico. Now, if you're adventurous or you want to pull a group of folks together, I can give you tons of suggestions on other cities where cost is less, and start your own expat hub over there, because honestly, I loved Zacatecas when I went there. I had never heard of it. A Mexican friend invited me to go a few summers ago, and I have thought about that city many a times, and it was way less expensive. They had a beautiful centro, it was bigger than San Miguel. They had a cable car going across the city. I just couldn't get over the prices of things. I was just like, nice restaurants and touristy type things to do, and it was just way less expensive than San Miguel. For example, my son, well, we both like, these like little necklaces with the stones and stuff. So they had like the little sphere looking ones. And in San Miguel, at the time, they were selling them for like 150 pesos. And I think I got them over there for like 25 or 50, no more than 50. And I was just like, what? Dinner, ate out at a restaurant with, how many were we? 6, I think. We were 6 people, had bottles of wine and all the things. And it was like a really eclectic, cool place. And it was just not a lot. It was not a lot. Now, I'm not at all gonna say cheap or nothing like this, but it was a thriving city. My friend and I, she was like, Michelle, we should look at some real estate here. She's Mexican. She lives in San Miguel. She owns 2 homes here. And, she was just like, oh my God, they had this land over here. We should go look at it. And I was like, yeah. And then they had all these places in Central that were really affordable. And their Central was much bigger than San Miguel. And it was thriving. At night, they had entertainment. It just reminded me of a European city, so much so. And I was just like, this is so beautiful and so cute, cool. And I was like, I need to go over there and start relocation over there too, because I'll always be here, because I love San Miguel. But I will tell you this, there's hardly anyone who speaks English, okay? And I thought my Spanish was fabulous until I got over there and I got the deer in headlights, and I was just like, they don't understand me. I remember asking for a margarita in several places on the rocks, And it was like a foreign concept. It's like, no, the margaritas are frozen. And I was like, I can't do frozen because my teeth are sensitive. I was like, at least with on the rocks, I can kind of move around the ice. And it was like a foreign concept. And I realized that I was really in Mexico. Like, not San Miguel, I was in Mexico. And I'm okay with that. Like, I am totally fine with that. But my point is that I really believe in build it and they will come. So money is definitely one of the reasons why people leave. Okay, I've seen it. I have seen it, and inflation is real. Groceries in San Miguel, if you go to the nice grocery stores, it is expensive. There are certain items that cost even more than the US. You really need to be able to shop around at the markets and be okay with that. Now, I'm not telling you not to go to the fancy places, go. You like shopping at City Market? Go for it. City Market is gorgeous, right? But you're gonna pay for that experience. You're gonna pay a premium for those things. Definitely La Comer, also really nice. There's so many beautiful, so many beautiful restaurants, high end, beautiful views and all of that, chicy people all dressed up and looking beautiful. Go for it, but it's gonna cost you more. I've been to Mexico City and I've been to some really nice places. One of the restaurants I took my son to 2 years ago for his birthday, and this was self-serving. I'm always like, do you want to go to a rooftop or a fancy restaurant for your birthday? So self-serving. And I'm like, don't you want a mocktail so I can have a cocktail? And he'll just be like, no, I want to go to Sky Zone. But we were in Mexico City. We went to a place called City Zen, and it was gorgeous. I mean, we're like way up there. But I will say this, it was pricey, but it was even less expensive still than San Miguel. Okay, so this is a real thing. Okay, so when you come here, even if you can afford a high rent and all the things, but you're at the top of your budget, just understand that that money could decrease and this could really put a dent in your peace and comfort of living abroad. You really have to consider that, because that can be very stressful if you're now starting to stress out and worry about money. Again, if you can find a smaller place that fits you, suits you, the rent is good, and you have a nice, good, soft cushion, and then you can add by doing something creative, do it. If you are like, you know what, I'm starting to see ABC, maybe you want to move into a bigger place and then rent your rooms out to people that you're compatible with. Okay, that's important. Compatibility, that is really important. I tell people that all the time. I think the whole bopping around is fantastic, but you got to make sure that you're going to like living with those people that you're bopping with, because people are different. People have different habits and behaviors. And trust me, I do know, because I have guest house. And, everyone has their way of how they do things. And you want to make sure you have those good upfront conversations and ground rules and all this stuff so you guys get along. And you also need to have, I need to get the heck out of this because I'm not happy here plan also. Okay. So I'm going to go to your comments. And let's see. I want to say this. Don't compare just your things on paper. I mean, the takeaway from this is that you need to visit, shop, and live like a local person to make sure that your money isn't going to get funny. Okay, even if you have it, maybe you got it because you were smart with it, right? And you aren't just spending. You want to make sure you make good investments, sound choices, and sound decisions, and have faith in yourself and the things you are doing. That is a big part of it. Mindset is huge. Mindset is so huge to me. Like, understanding and knowing that it's going to be okay, but making sure that you're working in that fashion. Okay. Unconsciously, you're always thinking about not the problems, but you're thinking about, oh, everything's going to work out because I'm working towards that thing to work out the way I need it to. All right. I'm gonna go up. I see you all are making tons of comments. Thank you. All right, Sun says, sometimes people relocate with a colonized mindset and it works out poorly. You're right. You're right. Wherever you go, there you are. If you're going anywhere attempting to create Atlanta or wherever, it's not going to work. I agree. I agree. I think it's okay to bring your ancestral things with you, like your foods, your style. That's fine. People appreciate that. Your hairstyles, whatever. Just don't bring stinky attitudes with you because we don't really need that. We don't need it there. We don't need it here. It happens, unfortunately, but I think of all the places I've visited in the world, that the Mexican people have been the kindest, and I feel that they accept us. At least I feel very warm in San Miguel in general. Yeah, I think that that's really one of the pluses for me in living in Mexico. So I always try to tell people, walk light, walk with grace, be kind. Doesn't mean every now and then you're not going to lay down the law if you need to. But I noticed, like with, talking to specific people and in men, I should say, with men for contractor type work, like there's a way to do it. I had the similar business in Florida where I worked with a lot of male contractors because that was my business. And, every now and then one would think like he could call me sweetheart and whatever. And I'm like, listen, I'm actually handing you my money, okay? So that's not how it's going to go down. And here, it's not so much that, like, it's not a condescending, gender thing. It's more just they think they know more. And my thing is they probably know a lot about what they're doing, but the question and the common sense factor plus the language is a challenge. So that's just something that you really have to, kind of push through, and yeah, can be a challenge. Let's see, what else? How do we schedule okay, I already read that. Sorry, I skipped the other one before. Just because you can afford to pay it doesn't mean you should. Exactly. Angel says, hi, hola, welcome. Sun says, I do natural and styled hair. That is a market I'm interested in. Okay. Catering to us abroad. We're moving, and this is an excellent income. Girl, yes, I think you're a girl. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, we're going to want some of the comforts of home. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's someone who recently came here. She's kind of low-keying it at the moment. She stayed at Casa, and then she kind of low-key told me that she was a stylist, and I was like, girl. And so she's low key doing hair, and there are people that kind of come and go that will say, hey, I'm in town, or I'm coming on these dates if anyone needs their locks done or whatever. Trust me, it is really something because our community has grown like in leaps and bounds, and there are lots of us here, like myself, that do not want to be bothered with my hair. I just don't. I just do not. I will pay you to do my hair any day. I even had a lady come today to do my nails at my house. I actually took my longer nails down, and I was like, I'm tired of that. I'm going to change it up. And she came to my house while I was sideways on my computer. And that's a luxury, right? Meaning, it's a luxury that I can have here in Mexico, so I'm very grateful for it. I was super busy, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't sit at the salon for 3 hours to get my nails done. I just have a lot to do, and I'm trying to get ready for Friday and my guest tomorrow and cook and so I found someone who came when my mom and my aunt were here, and she did a nice job. She brought all her stuff, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna ask her if she can do that, and she did. So there are plenty of services. You can be someone who is catering to older people who can't leave their house. to go to the nail salon or hair salon, right? There's trust me, my ideas are endless. Okay, so if you need some, book a consultation. Um, let's see. I bought Anne Marie's Entrepreneur. Yes, going to see what happens. I'm there. Excellent. Good. Yes, I know she told me she was doing that, and I think it's awesome. I don't know why. I didn't know. I didn't see her advertising it. It must be within her group. But that's a great way. I feel though, again, if you're trying to do the entrepreneur thing is one aspect, but doing an actual space, brick and mortar in Mexico, yeah, you need to know all the things about being an entrepreneur, but you also need to know how to do the building, having a space, licensing, and all that stuff correctly, getting an RSC and all those types of things. Let's see, CD, is the US credit score applicable in Mexico or do we completely start over? I won't say what I was gonna say about the US, but yeah, no. Listen, it's not, okay? It's just not. It's not. It could be if, depending on what you're trying to do, but in general credit, it's not applicable at all. So what I do know is, first of all, you need to have a residency to open a Mexican bank account, and through your Mexican bank account is how you will get credit in Mexico. And you have to build up your credit, and you can get credit cards as well at stores. I have one for a department store. I don't use it because I don't really like the store. I actually got it a few years ago because I just wanted to see if I could. And the process is extremely archaic. There is no, digitize, add your driver's license, la la la. You had to bring a bill. You had to bring a bill with you. And I will get back to the topic reasons in a moment. You had to bring a bill on where you lived. What else did I have to show? My passport and my resident card. And I think that was it. I think that was it. And it took like 2 hours for me to get $200 in credit. I was just like, oh my God, my time was worth way more than this. But I did it and I was curious to do it. And then it's the same kind of idea. So it's not really based on anything. It was just, I'm new at whatever, they're giving you this minimal, you pay it off and it increases. And I believe at this point it has increased. It's just not a store that I really shop at. And it's the only credit card that I have in Mexico because that's just not something I use or need. Now, with the bank, you can get credit. You can even get a mortgage. We talked about that a few weeks ago when I had my guest on. You can get a mortgage here in Mexico, but the terms are very different than the US. It's almost a 50% down on whatever it is you're buying, and then the interest is about 11%. And that loan or mortgage is going to be through the bank that you bank with, and then that's going to be based on how much you either have in the bank and or you're depositing. Another thing that I did just to find out, because I was curious, was if I wanted to finance a car, which I have not financed a car literally since 1997 when I bought my Jeep Wrangler that I love so much. It was brand new and it was citron green. I love that car. Anyway, back to reality. Since then, I have not financed any vehicles. I just bought them, and that was the end of that because I do not like car notes, and I just don't care that much about a car to be paying these big high notes. I just, it's always nice to have a nice car, and I've had really nice cars in the past, but honestly, I don't want a payment. But I was curious, how do I get a payment if I wanted to finance a vehicle? And it was kind of the same thing. So I went to the Jeep dealership here in San Miguel, and I sat with this woman who was super, super informative. And she basically gave me like a list of all the things that were needed. So basically, the dealership does not finance, or they don't figure out the financing for you. They tell you what payments can be made, and they set the terms up, and I hope I get this right. They set all of the terms up accordingly, and they'll tell you, okay, if you want to do, 24 months or 60 months or whatever, this is how much you'll be paying us every month. But that amount is actually given to you, that loan is given to you by your bank. So you need to have a relationship, again, a bank account with your bank, and be in good standing with them, and show that you've been depositing X amount of money, and then they will go through the review. Now, you have to be a permanent resident to be able to finance a car. They won't do it if you're a temporary resident. So what I did then was I went to my bank and I said, oh, because again, I was doing research and I was just curious. I said, if I wanted to get a car and I wanted to finance it, and I have my account, what do you need from me? And they basically said that I would need to put in, I think it was around 3,000 US dollars into my account every single month for 3 months. And then they would review it. They didn't say you would definitely get it, but he said highly likely that you would get the financing and blah, blah, blah. And basically it's a relationship building type thing. Now, how they insure the vehicle and all that other stuff in terms of ensuring that you pay it and not, drive off and out of the country with this car that's not paid for, I don't really know. I bought my car outright, and it's not a new car, it's a used car, but I had a good situation with that. So it is possible. And they also have some sort of credit score system that a Mexican woman let me know about. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it has nothing to do with the United States. Now, if there are banks that are affiliated with the United States, like Citibanamex, I believe is affiliated with Citibank somehow, they, I believe, will run like a credit check in the US. Some landlords will also do like a credit or a background check if they had maybe a negative experience with someone who was from the US and someone told them, hey, do this before you rent to that person. But overall, the two are not affiliated and not connected in any way. Okay, so you can start your credit score or credit building in Mexico. Angel, hi, welcome, amiga. Yes, hair salon, training locals, trust, it's doable. April, loving the kitchen remodel for you. Yes, that would exactly. The consultation in the US would have cost that much. My brother is a certified plumber and he has been doing that for close to 30 years. He is really good at what he does. I would fly him down here to do work for me because it would save me money. And if it cost like an arm and a leg like it did in the US, I would just hire him to do it. Other places that are cheaper as long as it's safe, please. Plenty. There are plenty. Like I said, Zacatecas is one of the places for me that, I don't know. I think about it a lot. I think it's a cool city. I would need to go back again, but when I was there, I was quite impressed with it. I really like Mazatlan, which is on the ocean. Also more affordable than a lot of other beach towns. Zihuatanejo is also very affordable. It is a bit touristy, but it's also on the beach. It's not as touristy as the Yucatan. There are places down in Oaxaca along the ocean, like Huatulco, which has changed a lot since my first visit, which was years ago. And it's definitely up and coming, but it's more of like a hippie kind of town. It's definitely on the water. I love Oaxaca. The beaches in Oaxaca to me are some of the prettiest in Mexico. So yeah, Chihuahua was also very affordable. If you want to live in the northern part of Mexico, the city of Chihuahua has all the things that they have in the US. They had IHOP and you name it. It looked a lot like Phoenix. I personally did not like it to live there. It just looked too much like the United States to me. I was like, and the United States, but everybody speaks Spanish. Actually, a lot of people did speak English. So, northern Mexico, I will say this, and I have not been in the city of Monterrey, but apparently Monterrey is kind of like their education hub, money hub. This is kind of close to California. It's supposed to be extremely progressive and all the things. I have not been outside of the airport on my way to somewhere else. It doesn't sound like my thing, but if you are looking to be somewhere where people speak English, they speak English because they're educated. And this is what I've learned from other people that went there and or other Mexicans that were married to Americans, and they were like, yeah, a lot of people speak it there because of their industry and the type of businesses that they have there and things like that. But I haven't personally been there, but those are some of the places that I like. Oaxaca is also really amazing. I was there a couple months ago, and it's very cool. It's a cool, very bohemian, but a city. It's artsy. You can feel that they are more connected to their traditions and the indigenous things. Also recommend there. But some of these other places, like I went to Aguas Calientes a couple months ago, it was okay. It's still, again, a nice city, big city. I can't really judge it, but from what I saw driving in, I was kind of like, oh, but it's a city. It's a city, okay? Same with these other places. There's a lot of cities. Someone mentioned Morelia. I actually like Morelia. Petskura, I've heard lots of really good things about. So there's a lot of places, all right? Let's see. You guys have a lot to say today. Thank you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. So there goes me trying to drop these reasons, and I'm still stuck on one. Still stuck on the first one. What's the weather like there? There now. There here is in San Miguel. I'm assuming maybe I missed something. It's actually really nice. It's starting to cool down if you're talking about San Miguel. We don't have a lot of mosquitoes like they do in the tropical parts of Mexico. We're way up in the mountains, so we don't have a lot of mosquitoes here. There are bugs and stuff, but not an excessive amount like you would find places that are warmer and more tropical. Let's see. Thank you for loving CasaELM. I love it. Bitty boop, bitty boop. I cut my nails and cannot type any longer. That was going through the same thing today, Cheryl. I cut them, and it's like I'm so used to them being up high and clicking on. It's like I'm missing all the stuff. I know I'm going to get used to it. Yeah, I do this every few years. I love the way SMA is spiraling out with new restaurants and places to visit. Just beautiful. Thank you. Pamela Jones, my goodness, City Market is like an experience. It is, isn't it? And San Miguel City Market is second to none. I agree with that 100%. I love going there. I love bringing people there. It's like a part of a tour. It's like part of the tour. I always do that every time I have relocation tours. I always bring people there because I want them to know that and I take them to the Tuesday market because I'm like, you got to see the Tuesday market, which is more locals and it's fun. It's so authentic. But let's also go to fancy ass city market, and people like it. It's like just like a little mecca of things to do. It's not quite Italy in New York, but it's awesome. So yes, I love it there. Angel, you said, what city is this? Okay, you have my WhatsApp, so send me a message, but you can find, go to chat and ask chat to give you some really cool cities to live in Mexico. They don't necessarily have to be expat cities. I know people rave about Guadalajara. I've been there. I thought it was okay, but I think I need to go back and give it another chance. Live in 60, that's another reason I chose less expensive rent because I enjoy going out. I agree. I enjoy going out too, but there's so much going out in San Miguel. I'm like, Time to stay home a little bit more. Son says you knew a girl that lived in Baja and it was very conducive to the Afro experience. Okay, I did not know that. I love that. You subscribe to her newsletter, please do share. There's no rush, we can take our time away, but it's time to quietly start moving. I agree. Okay, Deborah said, what's the weather like there now? Is it rainy? Da da da. Merida's having a time there. Okay, I know you asked me and I sort of answered. The rainy part, yes, it has been an incredibly rainy season this year. So much that I think everyone I know has had some kind of leak issue with their house, something happening. Yeah, but it's so beautiful. Like, can I just tell you, I don't know if you all saw my reel. I get to sit here, so I'm downstairs in my casita area, my in-law lounge apartment in the downstairs of Casa, and there's all French windows right here. And I get to look out to the yard and my bougainvilleas, whew, they are so, sometimes I just stare at them. I'm like in a trance. They're so beautiful and there's so many leaves and flowers on and they're all mixed in white and pink. And I get so inspired just staring at them and I'm just like, oh my God, it's so lovely and in the sky. So because of the heavy rains, it's been much greener and lusher in San Miguel than normal. And I think too, the fact that the lake is now full, which is just a couple blocks down the street, we're gonna have a much cooler winter because, you know, the lake's gonna bring that, you know, climate to the air to make it more, I don't say comfortable, I'm just gonna say cooler because I don't like being cold. So yeah. Cheryl asks, how did the lady do with the business where she got the house and rented the spaces out for the artists? Well, from what I last heard was she might be, I'm not sure if she's returning because I don't want to start rumors. I'm not sure if she's returning to the US or not, but someone told me that it's no longer there. But I think it's not so much kind of a failed thing. I think it's just some of the individuals who were there had some health challenges and had to leave. And I know that she also had addition to her family. And I believe she probably wants to spend a bit more time over there. I'm not 100% sure because I didn't get the story straight from her. So I don't really want to say it's yay or nay. But I love the concept and I do think that it's something that you could share with other people, right? So let's say you're an artist and you wanted to have your own studio space outside of where you were living, or if it were set up where you could live in it and you could maybe rent out 2 or 3 rooms, that could pay for your rent, right? And you could have, you know, someone in one area that's doing one thing. I know one of the spaces, it was for someone who was a designer, someone else who was doing, I believe, hair, and I'm not sure what the other spaces were. And then she was also doing some other things. So there's just a lot you could do. You know, maybe you don't necessarily live outside of that space. Maybe you live in the space, right? Which is what I do at Casa. I live downstairs, so I don't have an additional place to keep up. That's sort of how I started, was having that other place and then here and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, let me convert a portion of my area downstairs because that was my original intention so that I can stay in it, okay? So there's lots of ways to be creative. Let's see. Can you begin your relocation journey while you're still in the States? Absolutely. If you're talking about residency, yes, absolutely. Pamela, let's see, I hope I'm not missing anyone. Have you visited Puebla? I've heard good things about Puebla as far as relocation from the United States. I went to Puebla years ago. I only stayed one night, so I don't really have anything that I can add to it. I can just say that it was pretty, and this was a long time ago. I believe I went there even before I had my son, so it's been like over 13 years. I've heard good things about it. So, and it's not that far from Mexico City. So if you're ever flying into Mexico City and you want to know about Puebla, then you should just hop on a bus and go go over to Puebla, and I'm sure there are also Facebook groups as well. But I would go there. I would definitely go and check it out. And I've heard it's less expensive as well. Son says, I'm really interested in bringing the know-how of the states to help Black expats community with relocation acclimation, not the annihilation of another's culture. Okay, that sounds really good. I think we're not necessarily annihilating the culture. I think that we are here, and I say we, I think collectively there are a lot of people who do contribute to the community overall, especially in San Miguel. I tell people that, used to say back in the day, not so much now. I still hear it sometimes. They're like, oh, there's a lot of older white people that live in San Miguel. And I'm like, yeah, well, San Miguel is what it is because those people have been here a lot longer than we have. And a lot of those individuals have come and they've created a lot of voluntary, like, organizations that are nonprofit that help the community. There's a lot of feeding. This group or organization called Feed the Hungry. There's another one that's called So Everyone Can Eat or something along those lines. There are a lot of organizations that are for animal rights and orphans and you name it. There's over 200 nonprofit organizations in San Miguel alone. And that's a lot because honestly, in Mexican culture, and I'm not knocking it because I'm in Mexico, but one of the things I've heard from Mexicans that are some heavily involved in these nonprofit organizations is that it's not very common for a company or people to just volunteer and give money to things. I don't know if it's just kind of culturally, they might feel it as a scam or something like that. It's something that we in the United States, I think commonly we do and we're used to. I remember when I worked in corporate, there was always donations to whatever, because I worked in a marketing department, or buying sponsorship at a concert so you can get your name on, and logo on a brochure or flyer or whatever. And in SMA, a lot of people come here that have money and they're part of something and they build something. So I think that, there's more good than not, if that makes sense, and from foreigners than not. Let's see. We don't want to travel the same place and just get left though. No. All right. Living 60. I don't do well at City Market because I get stuck in the sushi stand. Okay. My son would get stuck there too. He loves sushi. I do too, actually. Where did we go? I feel like we went somewhere. Oh, Sunday. Yeah. Remember? Sunday, you were there. Living Broad 60. Marianne, you were there. Sorry to be thirsty, but this topic interests me if you can't tell. No worries, not thirsty at all. Maybe it's just a regroup thing. Okay, no worries. Let me see the last thing. If you don't have it in Mexico, you just don't have it. Is there a nonprofit sector in Mexico? Absolutely. There are lots of nonprofits in Mexico. I actually met someone who was telling me she was Mexican, just happened to meet her. It was serendipity because I was kind of like not sure how to set Hacienda up at the time, which is not a nonprofit, but I was considering like a portion or somehow doing 2 in 1. And this woman, just never saw her before, haven't seen her since, happened to be passing by my house when my son and I were leaving. And she said hi. And then she walked up the street and then she turned around and came back and said, can I give her a ride up the street? And because she injured herself in her vehicle or her scooter or something. It was an older woman too. And I said, sure. So she gets in the car and, I would never do this in the US, but she gets in the car. She starts telling me that she basically gets grants from the government for nonprofit. And that's what she's been doing. That's her business and her daughter, I think, was living in Canada. I was like, oh, I'm Canadian. Anyway, this is how you meet people in San Miguel. It's very easy. Let's carry on. So yes, to answer your question, son, thank you all for the input. I appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. So another hurdle that people have and why they don't necessarily stay or they don't make it is the legal and resident hurdles. Every year, Mexico's prices are going up, and sometimes people come and they like it here or they've stayed here. I know several folks who were here. Someone recently who was here for a few years, and I kept telling her about the regularization program, and I was just like, I really, really care about this person. And I was telling her about it, and I just don't understand what happened or why she never did it. But she recently moved back to the United States a couple of months ago, and she said it was because she really missed living in Texas, and she missed her friends in Texas, and that she didn't feel like she fit in anymore here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think one of the challenges was that she never got her residency, and she was doing border runs. And, again, not talking, I would never call names, but I know quite a few people that have done that, and they've lived here for a long time. And I just kind of never understood, if you had the opportunity, again, it could be money, but if you had the opportunity to live here, like, why wouldn't you jump on it? My mom did the R&E program, right? The regularization program. She's going to be a permanente next year, and you don't have to live here to be that at this time. It could change. I don't know. But I just thought, man, Mexico is super lenient by allowing people to be able to do this. And I really felt that it was a huge loophole in the system, and they were making money off of it because a lot of people did take advantage of it, and it did cost a little bit more in terms of the process and the application fees and, just filing, than doing it the traditional way. But it actually didn't cost a lot more, because if you didn't meet the financial qualifications, you were able to still apply as long as you met the criteria, which was, had you been in Mexico before? Yes. Before this date? Yes. Checks in your passport? Yes. Expired tourist visa, 1 day later you can apply and you get a 4-year residency. No financial checks required. And of course, they changed all of that as soon as the administration changed in the US, because people were now flooding the borders trying to get into Mexico and move to Mexico because they wanted to get out of the US, or they were considering it. Now, they took that program away. I'm surprised it lasted that long, because it was around for about 4 years. And I remember when it first started, I was kind of like, this sounds crazy. Is it real? Is it official? And it was. But a lot of people, facilitators, didn't want to talk about it because it just felt like people really didn't know about it. So the whole thing is that, it ended. It ended. Did the R&E program end in May? I think it ended a little sooner. I think it ended in April, March or April. And people had appointments, and they were just like, that's it. Yeah. Is there a way around it? There's probably someone in Mexico or multiple people that have a way around it, but I don't know those people. I can't recommend anything because I don't know. It's back to the traditional way of getting it. Now, if there's another way, let me know. Feel free to drop me an email, info@CasaELM.com, and yeah, we can explore that. But as of right now, no. That particular program, as far as I know, no longer exists, and every year the requirements are going up. As I said many times on my channel, I applied the traditional way in 2018, the beginning of 2018, and it was around, I remember it was like $14.95 a month, $1,495 a month per adult, plus $500 for kids. And even then I was just like, this is high, not because I didn't have it, but it's high because the people in Mexico aren't earning this much. But the way it works is it's the minimum salary times 5 for foreigners. And so that's the reason why it keeps going up. The average wage, and then times 5. So we have to meet a times five to qualify. And I'm like, tell me which average Mexican is making now. The qualifications are 4,000 and more. Which average Mexican is making that? Which I feel that it's a huge inequality in some ways. Fortunately, I find that I have good people because I try to pay well. Not so much where it feels like I'm gentrifying the situation, but enough where I feel that they know they're appreciated and I can trust them to not maybe do something real crazy, and also that they're able to come up too, because I do think that that's a part of coming up. You can't come up if your people around you can't come up. I don't want anyone in my space touching my things, the spaces you guys lay your head down onto, that's grudging me, okay? That's a very Jamaican term. Don't bad mind me, don't grudge me, okay? So I can't have those people making up beds and touching sheets and pillows and all those things, and they're not happy here, okay? So I like to be fair and decent and treat people with dignity and respect. And I also understand that, their living is very different than mine, but I still think their living is also very rich. My ladies that work for me, they all own their houses, they all own their space. The one I rave about, she's building a house right now, and I'm glad that she's able to do that through the work that she has with me, and I appreciate her. So, I think that it's kind of like one of those situations where Mexico's really trying to get the top creme de la creme from other countries to come here and invest. It's a smart move, right? But that is definitely a reason I believe people are leaving, because they haven't gotten their residency and they're still here on tourist visas. And, luckily, Mexico doesn't have an ICE scooping people up and throwing them in paddy wagons and vans and driving them across the border. So, yes, I said it. Let's see. Shell sanction calculation. Yes, they did change the calculation. I believe it goes up every year. Now, someone told me that it was going to be a little less next year, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure why it would be, but it came from a source, but I haven't verified that. So, like Toni Morrison said, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. Agreed 100%. I agree 100%, Pamela. If you have some power, then your job is to empower someone else. I really believe in that. That is what I do. I believe in it for the people who come here and help me. I am grateful every day. I really am. I stop throughout the day and I'm like, thank you. I say thank you all the time to whatever it is. I'm always grateful. I really am. Mexican ice, yeah. Let's see. Son said you couldn't take a job away from a Mexican citizen when I lived there. Nope. Yes, you don't want to create the bad obia. Nope. I definitely don't. Yeah, man. I think that there are certain things that I will hire, foreigners to do. It just all depends on the relationship and the person and what it is. But I really do try to hire local. You can get some bullshit too for a lot of things, especially when it comes to like doing your house. You want to make sure you get good word of mouth and things like that. And then there are those who are going to try to, get in your pockets because they see you as a foreigner and they're going to try to charge you more. But it's still crazy. Another reason why people leave, and honestly, this is something, infrastructure here. in a lot of different things, can be overwhelming at times. Now, if you're someone who might be excessive type A personality and really uptight about a lot of things, yes, you probably want to live in a city that has a more efficient way of functioning, and even that can still be draining. There's times when internet doesn't work. It happens here, like I have fiber optics. It works well, but it's still annoying because sometimes it's slow, and I'm like literally I'm right next to my box because I have two accounts right next to it, and I'm just like, why aren't you working? I was like, if I got any closer I would be inside the box with my computer. And just like, sometimes it just does weird things, like my cameras, like when I need them to come up, I even made a comment. I was joking today. I said, man, if I really had an emergency, I needed to see who was outside on the street. It was showing me the picture because the last time I looked at it was in the night. And I'm just like, it's like preparing cameras, like it's coming, it's like streaming. I'm like, ugh. So things like that, there are times when they will just turn the water off, not because we ran out of water, because they're doing repairs and you just don't know. And so many houses have like tinacos, which is a reserve, or a cistern, which has a reserve of a lot of water. For example, at the hacienda, I have lots of water, thank God. There's a well, there's a cistern that's like 25,000 liters that you can put on, plus reserves on top of two areas in the space. So, that's kind of the norm here. But I've had like a few times when, I go outside and the main and hose for the house, that's when and I didn't know that. Someone told me, handyman told me, he's like, oh, if this is off, that means it's off at the city. But usually the reserve is filled for those times. But it is something, okay? Banking, we talked about banking before, can be annoying. Paying bills, trying to just, can I just tell you, I'm gonna have some PTSD right now, but I'm not gonna get into it. I'm just not gonna get into it because I'm gonna have to let me have some of my drink. I didn't drink my drink today. It is sorrel, a little bit of sorrel. Normally it's thicker, and water. I mixed it. But the banking is insane. It's just opening a bank account. So I went to Ben Norte recently to open an account, and I think I was there until I had at least 10 extra gray hairs. I'm sure of it. I was just like, what in the bejesus is taking so long? And I'm like super calm on the outside, but inside, I am like cussing everybody out while I'm on my phone. I'm just like in my head. And anyway, they're like clicking around. And so, for example, withdrawing money, now I've gotten the hang of, and I have to tell myself this. You're frustrated because you don't know the process. You're frustrated because you don't know how to, but you're gonna learn it. So just breathe in and breathe out, and that's it. But it does take a while. So I realize now, like I go, and they're all nice to me now. They're all like trying to speak English. There's a guy there. He's kind of cute, young guy, and he's just like trying to say something. So the last time I was there, he was talking in English, and he turned red because the lady next to him was saying something to him in Spanish. And I think he got a little embarrassed because I was like, what? Because I didn't understand him. And I'm usually pretty good. And I was like, what? He's like, never mind, so he said it in Spanish. But I can withdraw up to 49,000 pesos without having to go sit down with a teller. And 49,000 pesos is like 2,500. I'm just gonna round it. Maybe, I don't know. It's about 2,500-ish. Anyway, I can withdraw that. If I want 50,000 pesos, she told me I have to go sit at the this lady's desk, like one of the bankers, not the teller, the bankers. And then they have my IDs, both my passport and my resident card. They have to make a copy, and then they take the paper and they fold it. So there's like the front part and the 2 pages in your passport. They fold it, then they cut around, and then they tape it. I'm like, what the fuck? And she's just doing it. So I sat at her desk for a half an hour for her to do whatever so I could take out this money. And then after that, she walked it over to the teller, who then went through his stuff. And I was just like, it took an hour for me to get this money. I was well heated. I was like, I cannot believe I was standing over here for an hour just to get this money. And there was no one in front of me. So this wasn't, because there were other people. So the next time she said, if I take out 49,000 pesos and take out 1,000 out of the ATM, then I'll have my 50, and then I won't have to sit at the teller, because they can do up to 49,000 at the banker's desk. They can do up to 49,000 at the window. And I was just like, oh my God, okay, whatever you want to do. And then I have to sign it exactly the way it is. And I mentioned this before, in my passport. So there was a time recently when I had to sign 5 times because it didn't look exactly like it. And I just kept scribbling it because I was like, how many times is she going to ask me? And then she printed the page and I was like, scribble. And I gave it back. She was like, no, the loop on the end is like whatever. And I scribble my name because I have a long name. I have a very long, Michelle Wedderburn is a very long, and the space is this big for me to fit my whole long name on. And so I'm just like, and she's like, oh, the loop is not exactly like it has to look like one in your passport. And I said, okay. I can't tell my hand to do it exactly because it's a scribble. It's a scribble. I always scribble because I don't type. I'm not like, I just scribble it. So we did that 5 times. So things like this can really break you down. Like I said, the infrastructure, a lot of times, the level of speed and consistency with internet is not there. You need a lot of patience, and sometimes, it's just a lot. It's a whole lot. If you have an online business and your Zoom isn't working, it could be something important. I've had times when I'm like, I had to scramble and be like, okay, where do I go to jump online? And there are places in town where you can get like a hot desk at a place and or a restaurant, but then it might be noisy. You just kind of have to know, like, where are my backup places and who are my backup people? Because if your power happens to go out, maybe you have some friends, you can go over there. We've done that a lot. We've rescued each other a lot. So things like that could be a lot for someone who maybe earns all their money online and they need infrastructure that's a little bit more reliable. Like I said, banking is one of the things. It is so annoying. Internet outages and things like that. Sometimes they're not here so much as a blackout. People can experience blackouts in places that are maybe more tropical, where there's maybe thunderstorms and things like that. Whenever there's a thunderstorm here, I'm always just anticipating, where are the candles and flashlights, because power's going to go out. Oftentimes, if it's not a continuous, heavy, crazy rain, it will come back up pretty quickly. And it also, I think, depends on where you live in the city. Okay, if you're out, it might take a minute. I think I shared this with you all a couple months ago. The power went out at Hacienda, and they were saying it's going to take a couple days for the company to come out and fix it. And some guy in the neighborhood came to my house and I think 3 other houses and said that he could put it on if we paid 250 pesos each. I said, here it is, because I was like $12. I said, here you go. And yeah, he did something outside and it was back on again. You just gotta know, know what you know. The last points I want to make is emotional. Is huge. I've talked about that. It's not just a cultural shock, but there are people who miss being maybe with their family, doing outings. I realized that when my aunt and my mom were here, it was so nice to have them around. I was trying to like convince my aunt to stay, and she was interested in staying, but she also wanted to go back and get her things from Canada. So not all hope is lost, but I remember thinking like it would be so nice to have like someone from my immediate family living here with me. Definitely a responsibility, because she's an elder person. But I really cherish and I'm so grateful that they were able to come, but also that other people have been able to come. But I realize that I do miss that. But I've lived away from home for a very long time. It's been over 25 years, and other people might be a new thing and they may miss their friends and their family, and the social challenges can be difficult depending on where you are. I think, again, back to what I say often is knowing yourself. That helps a lot and what your situation can be. Integrating into a place like San Miguel, where there's almost instant community for you, makes it so much easier. You can really adapt easier, but you can also adopt people and say, what, this is my, family over here, my family abroad. Another thing that I wanted to say really quick is safety and trust issues. So in the trust issue, and I mentioned it earlier, in safety, depending on where you are, like San Miguel to me is pretty chill. There are lots of safe areas in Mexico, but there are people who have experienced things, it just depends. I mean, I personally haven't, and I can't think of like anyone that I personally know that have experienced something really dramatic. But I know that if something happens, or even around you, a violent crime happens, sometimes, there could be people who are targeted because they have a lot of money, or they're targeted by even people that work for them. I've read those stories in the past before I moved here. Things like that can certainly break things down. If you go through a situation where the real estate that maybe you purchased, we talked to April a couple of weeks ago, things like this, you put your money in something and then something goes completely belly up, like that is a trust issue for real, because this is your money, this is your life savings, what you work hard for, and to invest it in something and then have someone scamming a situation, whether it was intentional or not. I talked about that with her. You can watch that replay on my lives if you're looking for it. But things like this, for example, even with myself, I had a person who was working for me last year, and I was all about it, doing a great job initially, and then just started going way downhill. And I said, oh, I'm going to let this person go. And then he turned around and he sued me. He sued me because I didn't understand. And again, I'm learning and I'm sharing with you guys, hopefully saving you headaches and time. This person, I never met him in person. He was freelancing for me. He was a freelancer. He was invoicing me as a freelancer with his own business and all the things. And, when I let him go because he wasn't doing his job anymore, and I was paying him a really good salary for Mexico, he ended up suing me and basically said he was my employee. He lied so much. He said he was my employee. He said he worked for me for 40 hours a week. I owed him for vacation, all this shit. And I was just like, you know what? We're going to fight this out, right? And so I ended up going to court to fight this out with him. And in the end, it was a complete joke. So I hired an attorney who basically also took advantage of the situation. I thought, he still helped with it, but he also took advantage of it as well. So it suddenly felt like, you know what? Yes, it probably would have been better to settle, but I didn't want to. And so I was like, you know what? We can settle when we get to court. And I could have gone to trial, but at that point it had went on for like a lot of months because the system here is just slower. And it was like, these filings of papers and all this stuff. And it's just not fair. And I was really pissed about it all. And I was just like, you know what? In the end, one, I learned something that I needed to learn because I felt like, okay, if you're going to have more than one place or two places, you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself. And so that's something that I feel, I didn't know, and this person took advantage of me because I didn't know someone who's a freelancer that's somewhere else, not ever having met, no, you're not my employee, you're contracting to do X amount of work from week to week, and you're billing me on an invoice. Now suddenly you're claiming to be my employee. And the way their system is set up, it's not in your favor at all, it's not. And they take even more advantage of it because you're a foreigner. And things like this is a part of the trust issues that I'm mentioning. It's like really annoying that, this was something, because if you're working for a person, that you're working for a person. For me, I'm like, okay, the people that work physically here, they're working for me. Someone online that I've never met before in person, you don't work for me. That's like me hiring someone off of Fiverr or Upwork or, wherever, and you're online and you're doing work. So I learned this, and, it was just one of those scenarios where I was like, okay, I needed to learn it. We totally negotiated, and I thought, no, like you're lost because you actually would have been making more had you stayed on board and had been doing your job between the time that I fired you to whenever. And then I also learned, okay, you know what? All right, this is what I need to do. So just pay somebody to write a proper situation out. I didn't know that I needed a contract with a freelancer. I know I need a contract with people who work for me, physically coming to my house. So I learned this. So these are the trust type of issues. When they do happen, it might feel very like a violation, and like you feel taken advantage of or whatever. And I've spoken to lots of people here that have had not so much the same situation, but other people that have had somewhat similar situations. And yes, always CYA. You can't always CYA if you don't understand the rules and the laws, unfortunately. For me, I was like, oh, I'm doing all the right things. And that happened, and I was just like, but this person isn't my employee. And it's like, oh, but your word against theirs. And I was just like, but, their invoice, here's all the proof. They invoiced me. They told me, I'm only available on these days and times and whatever. So maybe the attorney could have had a different defense, but he didn't really feel it was worth arguing over, just kind of like, let's settle and keep it moving. And that's what they do. Unfortunately, a lot of the court cases for a lot of things, it's all about mediating and settling for something to get that person out of your hair, basically. And I was just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And now we know. And so those kind of things can sometimes make you feel like, you know what, I can't be bothered, because in the US, it wouldn't have gone down that way at all, right? I know with certain people that may work in a company, yes, there's severance and there's certain things like that, or, wrongful dismissal, whatever, but definitely not a freelancer, and definitely not somebody at your house. Like, I had to let another lady go who she was like, oh, I only took this and I only took that. And it wasn't anything from anyone, like a guest. It was just like some little stuff in my laundry room. And my other person was telling me about it. And I was just kind of like, if you're going to take a little thing, then you'll take a big thing. And so I didn't like that. And I didn't like that dynamic and that mindset. And so afterwards, I was like, okay, I know I need to settle something with her. And I did. It wasn't a lot, but I was like, in fairness, I'm going to do this because this is somebody who physically was working in my house. And I went to an attorney and I was like, okay, what do I have to do? So these are the things that can really overwhelm and really frustrate you as a person, because you're maybe making too many comparisons to the United States. But I think it's important to understand, like, you're not there anymore. And, understanding how things work here, trying to get someone to give you the straight on it. Even if you hire an attorney, sometimes they don't give you the straight. answers for things. And so that can be very frustrating. And that creates, I think, when I say safety, it's not just about my body, it's the safety of what I'm doing, like having these like kind of constant moments where you feel like uncertainty can be very overwhelming and stressful over a stretched period of time, especially if it's your livelihood. I've experienced that, and I have literally said this, to people in my position of where, I'm saying like, for example, to someone who is supposed to be helping me, I'm like, well, this is, stressful to me because I'm trying to get straight answers. I'm coming to you for those straight answers because I don't understand all the things. And they're like, well, okay, well, you can be stressed out if you want to, or you can just go home and just chill, and I'm going to handle everything. I'm like, but are you really handling everything? And I remember going into this was before this situation, going into talk to an attorney and just being like, what do I have to do? And then I realized on the second go round when I had some questions about something else that this first person had actually taken advantage, because I remember him running like immediately. I was like, okay, this came up, what should I do? How would you handle this? And then it was like, they want to play into your lack of knowledge and lack of knowing. So it's just kind of, there's so many things that sometimes you have to pay to learn. Things have to happen for you to know and understand. And then you're like, oh, okay, I too can play that game too. And I remember him coming like trying to like get my anxiety and fear factor up. And I was just like, no, there's got to be someone else. This is ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. You want to charge me how much for simple, like putting something together and some advice and if this and if that, and you got to, and then I just went to another lady and it was like not even 25% of the quote that he gave me. And I realized, oh, you're just trying to run game. That's it. So you just kind of have to have your ears and head up. And it's just like, I think it's unfortunate because I feel like it's a cultural thing in some ways. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm talking about my experiences as I do on my channel. In some ways, it's this money grab attitude because it's a very opportunistic society. And again, like I said, I love living here, but when you need help sometimes and you think the people that you're hiring to help you with certain things, not just attorneys, but they are, heard lots about them, they're not always for you. They're just for themselves. And how can I take advantage of this for me? They might help, they'll help you, they'll get you out of stuff, but they're also going to take advantage of it as well. And so it's just like really a good thing for you to, understand that. And those are my reasons why people are leaving, honestly. And there's a situation I can think of for each of those people that are really missing their family, situations that have come up with trust, safety, people that have even experienced, maybe some safety challenges, not so much in San Miguel, but other places, but still ended up staying. Some maybe just didn't feel comfortable. It just all depends, so these are all the things and the reasons why people are maybe leaving, going back. Now, in this day and age and time, I'm gonna duke it out right here in Mexico, because in the north right now is insanity. So I'm gonna wrap this up because again, I did not plan on being so much to do. Did not plan on being on here as long, but clearly I had a lot to say, and you all did too. Make sure you hit that like button. See, I'm speaking on GP for your interest. People will always try to exploit N-word. Absolutely, they will. Absolutely. And is there a way to work in most parts of the world? Men seeing as some women as police. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, there's the gender challenge in terms of the masculine, feminine, whatever. But I think too, there are just things that you have to go through. You just have to go through to know better. I feel very fortunate to have had mostly great situations here, and I really enjoy living in Mexico. I enjoy what I do. I don't go out as much as I used to because I'm constantly working, but I really enjoy just being in my space, and I enjoy the guests that come and being able to help them and show them around. And when I do take them out, I feel like that is my social time, and I admire the city more through their eyes. So it's just one of those things that I think for sure it's worth it. Again, I hope my advice and my videos really help people understand the life in Mexico, the life in San Miguel. I try to be as honest and as transparent about things as possible. So I'm grateful for you all coming out tonight, and we'll see how we get into the brick and mortar things. I really want to bring, and when I say brick and mortar, it doesn't mean everybody that will come on will have an actual space, but they started a business. So let's call it that. Someone who's selling a product and not just a service online, selling something tangible. I am a service, I provide a service, but my space is a product where you come and you enjoy the space. So I want people to understand the differences. I think it's great to have a little bit of knowledge on doing both things, okay? Thank you all so much. We'll keep this for a replay so we can see it again. And yes, absolutely. All of my videos are available under replay. If you go to my channel and you go to the live is the recorded and then what's coming. So everything is there. Yes, please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, join. Also, make sure you go to my website and see what's happening, but you can subscribe there. I always have, I think it's 2 e-blasts that go out every week talking about what's coming and all the things that we're doing. And I can't believe it's almost the end of the year already. So I appreciate you all coming on. You're welcome. You're welcome to Living Abroad 60. Pamela, hey, absolutely. Tell Micah and Sandra hello. I will. I will. Buenas noches, everyone. Have a great rest of your week and stay tuned. I will definitely bring more next week and see if there's some things to add from the hacienda as well. Peace out, mi gentes, mis gentes.